Welcome to the Find Your Exit podcast. We're the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies. Michelle Seiler Tucker is dedicated to helping you find the path to retire rich and move on to your next adventure by exiting your business for the desired dream price you deserve. Get ready to find your exit with your host, Michelle Seiler Tucker.
Welcome to Find Your Exit podcast. I am so excited to have one of my very good friends, Frank Shankwitz, join us today. So Frank Shankwitz's bio is quite long. He is quite accomplished. Frank Shankwitz is the creator and co-founder and first president, CEO of Make-A-Wish Foundation. This is an amazing charity that grants the wishes to children with life-threatening diseases, illnesses. From the humble beginnings, Make-A-Wish Foundation is now a global organization that grants a child's wish worldwide on an average of 28 minutes. Every 28 minutes, a wish is granted. This is unbelievable. Frank is a U.S. Air Force veteran and has long distinguished career in law enforcement. He began as Arizona Highway Patrol motorcycle officer and retired as a homicide detective with the Arizona Department of Public Safety. With over 42 years of service, Frank has been featured in numerous publications and television programs, including Inside Edition, The Doctors, Hallmark Home and Family, Fox News, and CBS. Frank has received several awards, including the White House Call to Service Award from both President George Bush and President Donald Trump, and the Making of a Difference in the World Award from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in 2015. In 2015, Frank joined 6 U.S. presidents as well as Nobel Prize winners and industry leaders as a recipient of the Ellis Island Medal of Honor. In December 2015, Frank was presented with an honorary doctorate degree, Doctor of Public Service from the Ohio State University. In 2015, Frank was identified as one of the 10 most amazing Arizonians. In January 2016, Frank was identified in Forbes magazine article as Forbes' top 10 keynote speakers. Frank's new book, Wish Man, was released in September 2018. In May 2019, Frank was presented with the honorary doctorate degree, Doctor of Law. And in 2019, Frank received his star on the Las Vegas Walk of Fame. In October 2019, Frank received a Lifetime Service Award from Women of Global Change. And in November 2019, Frank received his star on the Coronado Island Walk of Stars. In November 2019, Frank received the 2019 Arizona Ambassador of the Year Award. In January 2020, Frank was appointed as an honorary commander of the U.S. Air Force 161st Air Refueling Wing, based in Phoenix, Arizona. Frank's life story, Wish Man, one of my favorite movies, a feature motion picture, was released in June 2019 and has won several awards, including being qualified for an Academy Award for Best Picture Oscar, and is currently streaming on Netflix. Frank is a board member on several nonprofits, and we are so fortunate to have Frank with us here today. Frank, welcome to the program. That's a mouthful.
Well, Michelle, thank you for inviting me. It's been a while since we've seen each other, so I'm glad we're doing this.
It is. And, I consider you a great friend. And, I'm starting a nonprofit called Tucker Teens and Tots. And I know you've agreed to sit on the board for Tucker Teens and Tots as well, right?
Exactly, yes.
So, Frank, you have lived quite the life. And all the listeners out there, if you have not watched Wish Man, you need to watch it. It's on Netflix. I was fortunate enough to go to the red carpet premiere with you and Kitty and all of our friends and actually sit right next to you in the movie theater. That was exciting. And since then, I've probably watched the movie 5 times after that.
Well, thank you for that. It keeps the ratings going.
So Frank, tell us a little bit about yourself and why did you decide to go into the military and become a police officer in law enforcement for over 40 plus years? Tell us about that.
Well, it all begins, and we kind of highlight this in the movie. The Wishman movie is based on a true story. We got to remember that. Hollywood likes to embellish. But it covers a period of my life from 1950 to 1980 when we created the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But the biggest thing in the movie, it highlights some of my difficulties in childhood about my mother, divorce of my father, actually abandoning me when I was 11 years old, leaving me on my own, and about the people that influenced me in my young childhood and my early teen years, etc. The biggest thing is teaching me integrity, character, work ethic, but how to give back when you can. I'm raised very poor. I started working full-time at 10 years old at a dishwasher. And a gentleman that became my father figure, Juan Delgadillo, who in fact I featured in the movie. We made sure that he was featured in the movie to pay back to him, even though he passed away over 10 years ago. But the family's still in contact with him. But he said, Frank, when you can, give back. And I said, Juan, the poor people are helping me. They're bringing me beans or tortillas. How can I pay back? How can I help them? And he said, you don't have to have money to give back. You can give back your time. He said, look at the widow Sanchez. She's always trying to help you out. Look at her front yard. It's full of weeds. Look at her porch, sand and a painting. You can do that. You can do it by giving back your time. And I always remembered that. And then the big thing also, Frank, especially when my mother left me, and what am I going to do? And he said, learn how to turn those negatives to positives. And this is the 1950s, Michelle. This is kind of a popular term in these days, but in 1950 it wasn't.
Right.
And I said, Juan, what do you mean? My mother just left me. And he says, an example, as a dishwasher, you make $26 a week, which every penny I ever made went to my mother. He said, if I arranged for the widow Sanchez, that you're going to live with her and she's going to charge you $20 a week room and board. And for the first time in your life, you're going to have $6 of your own, which in the 1950s was a lot of money for a kid. Right. That's a positive, that negative is positive. Also, the first time in your life, you're going to have your own room. I've never had my room. I've never lived in a house with indoor plumbing. And all of a sudden, you're going to have your own room. You don't have to go to the Santa Fe locker rooms to shower anymore and clean up. That's another positive. So he just kept influencing at me. And the same with the coaches through high school, which then led going into the Air Force.
Right.
And again, in the Air Force, just mentors from my sergeants, my supervisors.
So, the show is all about find your exit. And an exit can be a lot of things, right? It can be find your exit from a business, find your exit from a job. It can be find your exit from your childhood, find your exit from a mother did not take care of you. And you found Juan. I mean, you were so fortunate to find Juan. So that's what the show is all about, is find your exit. So you were very fortunate to find Juan and take that negative and turn it into all those positives and be able to give back and help everybody else.
Exactly. And it could have gone another way, but you've always, in Seligman, Arizona, where I was in grade school, 500 people up on Old Route 66 in northern Arizona. And you've heard the term, it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
And that was exactly that little town of 500 people. I mean, everybody just helping out. And I still go up there today. I still have friends up there. In fact, one owns a restaurant. And Juan Delgadillo's famous Snowcap is still there. The sons run it. And I go there twice a month to visit, just because it's fond memories. It's not bad memories at that time.
Right. Yes. And I think I met the family at your red carpet premiere.
You did.
Hollywood.
You did. Yes. The son and his family and daughters. And it was such an honor for me to invite them to be from this little town of Seligman. They loved it. And to be featured and introduced the Q&A following the presentation.
Right. So then tell us about, so you went into the military and then you were a motorcycle cop back in the famous day of chips.
Well, I took a little break between the military. Well, I was stationed in England, Vietnam era, but I was not a combat veteran. And Motorola was looking for Vietnam era veterans that had top secret clearances.
Mm-hmm.
And this was during the Atlas missile program. Now, this is kind of humorous. I didn't have a college degree, but they were going to send us to college using our GI Bill because the graduates could not pass background tests for top secret clearance. The majority of the college graduates had used the drugs, marijuana, and so on. They couldn't pass background tests.
Wow.
Motorola was looking for us, so I decided, well, let's try this. I ended up there 7 years. Motorola was so good to me. Ended up, of all things, in statistical engineering, determining the failure rate of certain components for that Atlas missiles program.
Wow.
More money I ever made in my life. I mean, excellent advancements. But I was bored. I don't like living in a big city. I'm a small town guy. And some of my friends had joined the Highway Patrol following high school, following their college. I kept saying, Frank, with your background in engineering, and especially in the Air Force, I was in Air Police and also in investigations, you'd be a perfect fit. And I said, guys, I make in 1 week what you guys make in a month. I'm not going to give that up. But I just started thinking about it. I'm kind of adrenaline junkie. And I thought, this might be a good adventure. On a whim, I put in an application. Out of 1,000 applicants, they chose 50. I was selected. Am I going to do it? Yes. Best career choice I ever made. Because like you said, 42 years later, finally retired.
So you took a huge cut in pay to leave Motorola and go work for the police department.
A big cut in pay. And I think I was...
So that's another exit you made. That's another exit. So you exited Motorola and went into to law enforcement.
Yeah, and everybody has this kind of career path, what about being. Apparently mine was in service and helping people and helping others.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing was my first duty station was down in Yuma, Arizona on the Mexican border, California-Mexican border. And I was continuing taking college classes. And the football coach came up one day and he said, I know you're a high school football coach and you were very involved with all the sports. Have you ever heard of Special Olympics? And I said, Coach, no, I haven't. What is that? He explained the program to me, asked if I would be a coach in my off time to help these kids, especially with the football throw, the baseball throw, basketball hoop. I love that. I mean, I had so much fun working with these kids, and it was the first time that Juan had always told me when I was a youngster, Frank, when you can give back.
Right.
I started thinking, wow, all of a sudden, I think I'm giving back. I mean, it just felt so good working with these children. And then in 1973, the Arizona Highway Patrol decided they're going to go back to a motorcycle program. And it's going to be a 10-man tax squad that worked the whole state of Arizona. 2 weeks in one town, 2 weeks in another town, and asked if I would apply for motor school. And I thought, now this is going to be fun, which I did, passed, and got on that squad. And again, a great decision because I stayed on that for almost 11 years.
Wow.
But you mentioned chips.
Yes. That was a famous show back in the...
all rolls together, Michelle.
Right.
In the mid-'70s, the TV show Chips became very popular. And for people who don't remember, it was the adventures of two California Highway Patrol motorcycle officers, Ponch and John, Larry Wilcox and Eric Estrada. And they're very popular with the kids. The demographic of that show was 7 years old on up for the boys, and for the girls, 7 years old to about 50 for the ladies because of Ponch, that smile, everything else. But because of and we rode in two-man teams usually going into these towns, and all of a sudden, because of the popularity of the towns, we'd ride into town or two-man team, and the kids, hey, Ponch, hey, John, hey, Chips. And we trained initially with California Highway Patrol. Our equipment was identical. Our uniforms were identical, except obviously ours said Arizona. So as far as the kids were looking, they were looking at Chips riding into town. And I just started talking to our commanders, and I said, well, we have a little bit of off time in these towns. Can we go to the grade schools and start talking about bicycle safety? And they said, that would be great PR. We love doing it. The kids love doing it. They could care less about bicycle safety. They just love getting all over the motorcycles. But again, a great PR tool to boost up the image of the police.
Right. And that was in the 70s, right, Frank? Was that the 70s?
It was in the 70s, yeah. And then in 1978, I was assigned, our whole 10-man team was assigned to an area called Parker, Arizona, right on the Colorado River during spring break. Little town of Parker, from 2,000 people grew to 85,000 people because of spring break. All these college kids coming over. sex, drugs, rock and roll. We had more fatal accidents. We had homicides. We had rapes, everything you could think of. I'm in a high-speed chase, 85 miles an hour in a 25 zone with a drunk driver. When another drunk driver pulled right in front of me, I couldn't do what we call our break and escape maneuver, hit him broadside in 80. I was told the crash was spectacular and was pronounced dead at the scene. Mm. Now, obviously, the rest of the story, because you and I are talking, right?
Right. Right.
My partner tried to revive me. He couldn't do it. He called in the code. 963 officer killed in the line of duty. Every police officer I ever worked with, Michelle, believes in some type of higher being, whatever religion or faith it might be. In fact, we say a prayer every day you go into work. Please allow me to come home. We get home at night. We say a little prayer. Thank you for allowing me to come home. And I believe in guardian angels, not the ones with the wings and, and everything, but that God will send somebody, something to help you out.
Right.
And in this case, he sent an off-duty emergency room nurse out of California who stopped at the scene, identified herself to my partner, said, please let me try and revive him. He said, we've got no pulse, he's dead. Well, obviously she didn't listen, and for the next 4 minutes performed CPR, and because of that, you and I are talking today.
Thank God she didn't listen.
Exactly. Thank God.
What an angel. And I remember you telling the story that you woke up. Go ahead and finish the story. that you
and to be a police officer, you have to have a little bit of humor in life, right? And I had to go to counseling. I had severe injuries. I had a massive brain injury, skull fracture, a lot of broken bones. And during the counseling, the counselor said to me, now, do you remember anything? Do you remember your senses? Do you remember anything? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about, Doc. And he mentioned the tunnel. And he described it as people, and it happens in the emergency room. As your life goes away, you see the light, like at the end of a tunnel, all of a sudden the light goes out, you're dead. As they bring you back to life and your senses come back, that tunnel, that little light starts coming back, and your senses come back. And he said, do you recall it? And I said, well, I do recall the senses. Well, what? I said, I recall a sense of hearing. I'm hearing sirens in the background. I'm hearing people. She brought him back. I don't know what they're talking about. I recall the scent of smell, something very pleasant, like a perfume. I recall the sense of touch. Something is tickling my face. Something is on my lips. The sense of sight. I open my eyes. I hear this beautiful blonde with a lip lock on me. And I thought, if this is heaven, I'm okay. We're happy here. Like I said, we have to have a little bit of humor.
It's good it was her. It was good it was her, not your partner, right?
It was at that time that I'd gone to counseling and again, making sure my head was right to go back to work. Right. And the final thing the counselor said to me is, you died that night and God spared you for a reason. And now it's up to you to find that reason. And It was 2 years later in 1980 when I found that reason.
And that reason, it was Michael, right? It started with
Michael,
a little boy named Michael.
Michael, movie name, real name Chris.
Real name Chris. Yeah. Real name Chris. Is it Michael in the movie?
Michael in the movie, yes.
Yes, okay. Real name Chris.
Yeah. And I was working up again in northern Arizona, about 2.5 hours away from Phoenix. I get a call from the dispatcher, check out a telephone. I got to remember 1980, there's no cell phones. Those are no internet, anything like that. Closest cell phone.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah. Days, yeah.
People talk to people.
Closest payphone was 40 miles away. I call in. She says, we've just been informed about a 7-year-old boy named Chris, a customs agent that's a friend of the family named Tom Austin, has called and said, Chris's heroes are Ponch and John from the television show Chips. And he tells his mother, when I grow up, I want to be a highway patrol motorcycle officer, just like Ponch and John. And he said, unfortunately, Chris has terminal leukemia and only a couple weeks to live. And is there any way that the highway patrol can set up to meet one of the motorcycle officers just to hang out for a day and just kind of make this boy's wish, per se, come true? And the commanders had chosen me because of my work, I guess, with the kids all around the state years prior to get down to Phoenix. And it was, like I say, over a 2-hour ride just to get back down to the Phoenix area. But it was so neat, Michelle, they timed it. With the permission of his mother and doctor, our state police helicopter picked him up at his hospital to fly him to our headquarters building in Phoenix. And they timed it so with radio communication. So just as the helicopter was approaching, I was approaching the landing zone.
Right.
Now, I had never met this little boy. I had no idea what to expect. I know our paramedics are with him. As the helicopter's coming in, all I see is his face plastered against the window with a big smile.
Wow. And how old was Chris?
7 years old.
7. Okay.
7 years old. Helicopter lands, and I expected the paramedics to help him out. This little boy just came off IVs. Door opens up, a little red pair of sneakers jumps out, runs with the motorcycle. Hi, I'm Chris. Can I get on your motorcycle? Well, of course you can, Chris. Now, as I mentioned, this little boy watched ships so much, and our equipment was identical. He knew every button and switch on that motorcycle from
Wow.
That's the siren. Can I turn it on? That's the red lights. That's the flasher. What's in your saddlebag is the same as Ponch has on his. He is laughing and giggling. I'm looking at his mother, and she's crying. And why is she crying? Then it dawned on me, she has her 7-year-old back. He's running around like a typical kid, having a great time, instead of being in a hospital bed with IVs.
Right.
And Chris went on that day, I'm going to condense this a little bit, to become the first and only honorary Highway Patrol motorcycle officer that day, complete with a custom uniform we had made for him, his own badge, which is still assigned to him today. Most important to him, his motorcycle wings, making him a full police officer.
Right. And I remember, the lengths you had to go through to get the uniform, to get the badge, to get the wings, because I talk about that in the movie Wishman.
Yes, and it wasn't just all instantaneous. It took a couple of days to do that. And in fact, a couple of days after all of this happened for Chris, I got a call. He is back in the hospital, and you're authorized to go there. He's in a coma. He's probably not going to survive the day. And his uniform is hanging right by his bed.
Wow.
And when I went in there, I picked up the uniform, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm looking at the motorcycle wings, and he comes out of the coma. He looks at me, and he says, Frank, he called me Officer Frank. And who can say Shankwitz, right? I'm a motorcycle officer now. Yes, you are, Chris. And he asked for his uniform. He's rubbing the wings. He's showing his mother. He died a couple hours later. And I always like to think maybe those wings helped carry him to heaven.
Wow, they absolutely did. I tell you, God has a plan for all of us.
Yes, yes. Now, our commanders learned that Chris was going to be buried in a little town called Kewanee, Illinois, about 180 miles southwest of Chicago, and told me we have lost a fellow officer, because Chris was sworn in as a full honorary police officer.
Right.
He said, I would like you and your partner to go back to Illinois and give Chris a full police funeral, which we did. Now, again, this is the day before internet, but the press picked this up, not only the print, but the TV stations. And we were met in O'Hare Airport in Chicago by the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS. What are you doing? Why are you escorting this little boy? Why are you burying him? And we told the story. They sent the word to the little Des Moines affiliate close to Kewanee, and were met by the press there. But the press also notified Illinois State Police, the city police, the county police, unknowns to us, who all met us at the burial site, give this boy a full police funeral.
Wow.
And Chris was buried in uniform. His grave marker reads, Chris Gracious, Arizona Trooper.
Wow.
But flying home, Michelle, I just started thinking, here's a little boy had a wish, and we made it happen. Why can't we do that for other children? And that's when the idea of the Make-A-Wish Foundation was born, maybe 35,000 feet over Kansas or somewhere.
That's amazing. Because here you were, a little boy that was abandoned at how old were you when you were abandoned?
11 and 12.
Okay, so here's a little boy that was abandoned at 11 or 12 and was really raised by this family in such a small town in Arizona, and by Juan and his family. And then here you are getting this huge tragic accident, and you're revived by this beautiful nurse. And then this little boy, Chris, comes along and has this beautiful dream. Now, because of you and because of Chris and several other people obviously involved, Make-A-Wish Foundation, I think it's one of the largest foundations in the world, granting a wish every 28 minutes, correct?
Yes, it is. And again, you just said the key word, a lot of people. I had an idea and made it work. I was first president and CEO, but it takes literally thousands of people around the world.
It takes a village, a large village.
and because of Chris, now we're 40 years later, there's 62 chapters in the United States, 45 international chapters on 5 continents. and we're well over 500,000 wishes have been granted now. Like you said, one every 28 minutes on an average, all because of a 7-year-old boy.
And all because of you.
Well,
And all because of Juan, who said, pay it back. Help somebody else. Play it forward. So all because of you. All because of Juan. All because of that nurse. All because of Chris. All because of all of you, angels.
Yeah, teachers, coaches, military, my commanders in the patrol, sergeant,
Right.
supervisors, everybody. I mean, we all, everything is not puppies and rainbows, right? We all have our hiccups in life, but it's what you do with those.
Right, absolutely. You know, look, what did you do? You turned your lemons and made lemonade out of it, right? You had some great mentors along the way. You had some great support system. I mean, unfortunately, there's so many children out there that really don't have that support system, that's why I'm starting Tucker Teens and Tots, is to be able to provide that mentorship, because not all children are so fortunate. But you also took that hand that was held out to you, because a lot of children don't always take that hand. They don't always take that help. They don't always, take what's in front of them to better their life, and you did.
Well, yeah, and I was always appreciative because, like I said, we lived, before my mother left me, we lived in such bad conditions. We lived in a tent. We lived in a car. We lived in old flop houses. Food was always an issue. So anytime that I could get something, I was very appreciative. But the biggest thing, there were seldom handouts. That was the days, if you're hungry, you work to eat. Simple as that. That's why at 10 years old, I started a full-time job.
Right. Yes, you didn't have a handout. You had a hand up.
Yes.
And I think that's the big difference, a hand up versus a handout. I mean, I know Juan helped you. I think Juan took you out of that restaurant you were working on and then gave you another job, right?
Well, he let me work part-time with him also.
Right.
Remember, the movie's based on a true story.
Oh, I know.
But I wanted to do some extra things. I was going to be a rodeo bull rider in junior rodeo. And entry fee was $3 back in those days.
Wow.
Like I said, all my money I ever made when I was still with my mother went to her. So Juan would let me work in his little place, mopping, cleaning, anything I could do to earn that $3 for that entry fee.
Right. So you had to pay your living expenses at the age of 11 or 12 of $20 a week.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you were not given a hand out, you were given a hand up though.
Well, yeah, but the handout also came from friends and that. Like I say, Frank, we've got some extra beans and tortillas. We're going to give them to you. Yeah.
Did you ever get sick of beans and tortillas?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever get sick of eating beans and tortillas?
Still love them today.
Me too. So you started Make-A-Wish Foundation with one little boy with Chris. Then it grew exponentially. At what point did you exit Make-A-Wish Foundation and turn it over to the other people, to everyone else?
Yeah, an excellent point on that, because I'm a full-time police officer. I'm trying to run this foundation. What was so nice, Michelle, is my commander, the director of the Arizona Highway Patrol, Ralph Milstead at the time, called me in. And when the director calls you and you think, okay, I'm really in trouble, right? And he said, Frank, I know what you're doing. He said, I'm going to endorse it 100%. In fact, I'm going to give you one of our Highway Patrol offices to use as your office for Make-A-Wish. Remember the old Watts lines before the days? I'm going to authorize you to use a Watts telephone line. I'm going to let you use typewriters. There was no computers.
Right. I don't remember the Watts line, but I do remember the typewriters.
Yeah. And he said, I know you're going to have to do a lot of this in the daytime. And he said, but here's the thing, because I was the top, I'm not boasting, but I was one of the top guys, felony arrests, DUIs, etc., citations as a motorcycle officer. He said, I want you to keep your stats up. And if it takes you 15 or 18 hours a day to do it, that's what you're going to do. You're going to give me 8 hours of work. And I love that man for that, and I did that. And I would work usually 18 hours a day trying to run that. But after a couple of years, I just couldn't do this anymore. Plus, our board, a very smart decision. Remember the college you learn, surround yourself, well, even in business, with people who are smarter than you.
Right, absolutely.
And we said, we need to, because I never took a salary. We said, we need to hire somebody that knows that from the nonprofit world, that has a business background in the nonprofit.
Right.
Which was the greatest decision we ever made. So after a couple of years, that's what we did, turned it over to them to run this, which there's been 10 CEOs, I believe, over the years now that has made it grow to what it is today. So that was the best decision. Surround yourself with people smarter than you, hire people smarter than you.
Yes, I mean, I say that all the time, and you know, some of the biggest leaders in the world say that they surround themselves with people who are smarter than them, who have the core competencies that they don't possess, and you know, that's what makes great leaders. Leaders recognize their strengths and their weaknesses. They recognize what their core competencies are and what they need assistance in.
Yes, definitely. Now, the Make-A-Wish kept me on for a long time as a Wish ambassador, sending me all over the world.
A Wish ambassador. What a great title that is, huh? That sounds like a lot of fun.
And that was for meet and greets all over, for keynote speaking at galas on that, and did that up until we started production on the movie, and then it was a conflict of interest.
Right.
And we have that. If you may make any type of money from a project related to Make-A-Wish, even though the movie is not about the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Right.
I just taught integrity and resigned everything, because in case anything did come back, any negative press about it, it would be well covered.
So I think it's important, though, to point out that the entire time you were with Make-A-Wish Foundation, you never took a penny from the organization. Oh,
no, not at all. Even on travel, as far away as Guam, Tinian, Saipan, airlines would donate the flights. Hotels would donate rooms. I would cover my own expenses on meals. Now, other Make-A-Wish employees had travel expenses, meal expenses, but I don't want to do that. I don't need a lot, and a lot of the galas, they feed you, right? So the money, I wanted that money to stay for the children.
And, you know, and that's inspirational, and that's very unique, because many leaders of nonprofits, they load their pockets up, and a big percentage goes into their pockets. It goes into other CEOs' pockets, you know, to run the organization. So that's a huge, you know, tribute to you, that you never took a penny from the foundation. Your entire passion and mission and goals were to take care of the children and make their wishes come true. And that's amazing. I think you know that, right? You've got to know that.
Well, again, I was taught integrity, but even at the beginning, I as a police officer, we're very fortunate to work a lot of off-duty jobs, especially personal escort duty for celebrities and so on. Pays very well. And I would use that money to put the seed money into the foundation, because we didn't have the donations coming in initially.
Right.
So we needed to cover a lot of expenses, getting equipment, etc.
Right. And so you've traveled all around the world granting wishes as a Wish ambassador?
Well, not so much granting wishes, but promoting the foundation.
Promoting the foundation.
Yeah, 2 chapters around the world.
Tell us a story about Disney and how you were able to get Disney on board, because I love this story.
Disney doesn't like this story, but Disney's very protective of their brand. And I told us, in fact, at a big meeting 25 years ago at Disney, and they finally said, okay, you can tell this story. But our first official wish was in 1981. A little Mexican boy named Frank Bopsy Salazar, nicknamed Bopsy, that's all he knew by. And unfortunately, again, terminal leukemia. And when we started this foundation, Michelle, it was for children with terminal illnesses. None of the children survived back in those days. And fortunately, we were able to change it several years ago with children with life-threatening illnesses, because children, in fact, are surviving. Like I like to say, it's the grace of God, modern medicine now.
Right.
But Bopsy, I was his wish grantor, went out to interview him. A child gets the wish, do you want to have, see, be, go, whatever it might be, those 4 categories. And I borrowed, they were a very poor neighborhood outside of Phoenix. In fact, still dirt floors, still outhouses. And I borrowed a patrol car to go out instead of the motorcycle. And the mother was a single mom, divorced mom, very embarrassed for me to come in the house. So I asked Bopsy, well, to get in the patrol car. And Bopsy was, at 7 years old, was going through rites of passage through the Catholic Church of his parish.
Wow.
And couldn't show emotion, had to be very stoic, supposedly. And put him in a patrol car and just explain to him what we were doing and that, and if there's anything he'd like to have or see or be or do. And he started thinking about it, and he said, I want to be a fireman. And I said, wait a minute, you're sitting in a highway patrol car and you want to be a fireman? Well, I got a little smile out of him. And I thought, that's easy. My girlfriend, Kitty, my wife now, her brother's a Phoenix fireman. I'm sure we can pull that off. No, I want to ride in a hot air balloon. And I thought, well, that's easy. I know people up in Prescott where I was raised, they have a hot air balloon. No, I want to go to Disneyland. And we hadn't thought about a travel wish out of state. And I said, well, okay, let me go talk to our board and see what we can do. And I went back to the board and I said, I want to break the charter right now. The child only gets one wish.
Right.
I said, I'm going to break this charter right now. I want to grant all 3 wishes because we're going to get so much press out of this. It's going to be unbelievable. It's going to put us on the map nationwide. And the Phoenix Fire thing, that was great. Phoenix Fire Department, they even made a little turnout suit for him sliding down the pole. I mean, they just went off with this little boy. He had such a great time. The hot air balloon, again, so many people, the press covering it. We're getting so much coverage. Disney, our secretary kept calling Disney for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. We have this little boy. What we would like was free admittance into the park. And if he can get in front of the lines because he's in a wheelchair, very ill. Well, Disney just kept hanging up. And we learned later that Disney gets all these bogus requests all the time.
Right.
And
I would
she
imagine.
said, yeah. And she said, I don't know what to do. They won't even talk to me. I said, well, give me the name. Let me call. So she gave me the name of the secretary for Director of Public Relations. I called, and instead of saying this is Frank Shankwitz, President and CEO of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, I said, this is Frank Shankwitz, Arizona Highway Patrol. And you can almost imagine the secretary sitting up a little straighter. And she said, yes, sir, what can I help you with? And I said, I need to talk to Director of Public Relations. Why? I said, I have a warrant for one of your people.
Just a little teeny white lie.
Yeah, now guess who I got to talk to? But the minute I got the gentleman on the phone, I said, I just lied to you. I said, here's my name, here's my badge number, here's my supervisor's name and phone number. All you have to do is call him right now and I will be terminated immediately. But will you please listen to my story? And he did listen to my story. And now Disney, 40 years later, one of the biggest sponsors of all the years for Make-A-Wish. I mean, millions and millions of dollars, thousands of children in Disney things. And so sometimes you got to lie a little bit, but, you know, qualify your lie right away.
What an amazing story that is. I love that story. So, you know, Frank, you've spent years and years and decades, you know, helping others. And I know at one point someone asked you, well, Frank, what's your wish?
Yes, that was Greg Reed, and that was at his Secret Knock event, and I had spoken there several times before. And in fact, he was filming a documentary, Stickability, at the time.
Right.
And I was going to be one of the people in the documentary speaking on stage. And I did speak, and we got the standing ovation and so on. But he surprised me by coming up on stage because that wasn't part of our script.
Right.
And he said, Frank, what's your wish? I said, what? And he said, you've granted, the foundation has granted thousands of wishes.
Foundation, right.
What's your wish? I said, I never thought about it. And he said, well, do you need a new pickup? Do you need more horses? What do you need at the ranch? And I said, well, it's not about me, but I just like to have my story told so that my kids, my grandkids think, hey, Dad, Grandpa did something cool in his life. And that was it. I mean, I never thought about it. But after we finished the documentary, Theo Davies, who is the director for the documentary, came backstage and introduced himself. I had met him, but he said, let's talk. He said, I've never seen an audience reaction to your story, and I want to make a movie about your story. And I thought he meant a documentary, but anyhow, I said, no, we don't want to do that. He said, yes, we do. And he said, we want to make a feature film. And I thought, wow, I mean, I just flabbergasted, honored. I mean, what an honor to even think about that. And I've worked with Hollywood before on different projects. And I said, well, Theo, let's do this. But guess what? I have complete script approval because, like we say, based on a true story.
Right.
And that's why it took Theo 2.5 years to write that screenplay, because he would keep sending me the rough drafts. I said, this is great. I said, we're not going to do that. But there was a lot of compromise also that we finally got. And what a terrific screenplay this man wrote. I mean, just wow to him.
Wow. And wow to the movie. I mean, the movie is incredible. You know, I'm mad at myself for not flying to Prescott, Arizona and participating, because I know you invited me several times.
Well, and that's another thing. When we got ready to film, Arizona doesn't give tax credits to the movie industry anymore. I mean, for years, every Western movie almost made for years was in Arizona. And I lobbied real hard to get it filmed in Arizona because look at what Hollywood brings into the local community as far as economics and that. And I wanted to get back to this town in Prescott that during high school that helped me out, that I still know so many people. And they said, no, we're not doing it. And I said, well, listen, if we need a bar to film in, we need this, we need that, we need a sound stage, I'm going to get all of that for you free. And because the local community is going to donate to me. And we added it up and we're going to save over $1 million just in location costs. And they said, guess what? We're going to film in Arizona. And I'm just so happy on that. And I mean, Prescott was just thrilled during the filming.
Right. And I still have to make it out there. Maybe for the sequel.
Yeah.
Because I know there's so much more to your life story that it's only a 2-hour movie, right?
Yes.
Of course, there's so much more. So, Frank, with all of your experiences and all of your wisdom, I always say a nonprofit's like a business, and you should run a nonprofit like a business, right?
Yes.
Most of our listeners are entrepreneurs. What is your number one business tip or business advice you can give someone?
Well, in the nonprofit world, especially, make it about the mission and not you.
Right.
It's all about the mission. There's so many people. I do a lot of counseling for starting nonprofits. And when the people talk to me and they say, what kind of salary can I take, which is their first comment, bye, we're not talking anymore, because it's about them. It's not about the mission.
Well, that brings me back to what I said earlier in the conversation, that you never took a penny from the foundation, and many leaders of nonprofits do. And
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And I get a lot of questions, negative remarks about the current CEO of Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is making over $1 million a year. Now that is a lot of money, but that gentleman is running a worldwide group. Now think if that was a for-profit, $1 million would be an embarrassment as a salary. And He's got thousands of employees around the world that he's managing. And Make-A-Wish, an example, Charity Navigator still gives it a 3 or 4 star rating, and that 70 cents of every dollar is still going to the mission, which is a high rating by the watchdog group, Charity Navigator.
Well, and I think that's the big thing right there is, yes, there might be these big salaries at the top, but what is the rating? What percentage of the dollar is actually going to help the mission and help the people in need? And give our listeners some advice of how to rate charities.
Well, I mentioned briefly at charitynavigator.org.
Okay.
Charitynavigator.org is a watchdog for numerous charities in the United States. There's approximately 1.2 million nonprofits in the United States right now. And they've got an A to Z listing. They don't cover all of them. But what they do is they get the quarterly IRS reports that a nonprofit has to give to IRS. And they look where the money is going. They develop pie charts to show, and they rate a 1 to 4 star rating. But they show how much money is going to the mission, how much money is going to expenses, overhead, fundraising, etc. And also it pros out the salaries of the CEOs. So you can see exactly where your money is going. And if somebody top rated, Red Cross, for example, has a bad rating, but yet there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
But it just, we'll find out whatever your nonprofit might be for children, for veterans, whatever, you can look on there, the name of it, and it will give you that rating.
Yeah.
Find out where your money is going.
That's great to know for our listeners. And I still think it's admirable that you lived on a cop salary and did not take a penny from the foundation. I think that's admirable. You have huge integrity.
Well, thank you. But again, it's about the kids. Why would I?
About the kids. It's about the kids. And that's why nonprofits should start. And like you said, the number one thing should be the mission and who you're trying to serve, not trying to serve yourself.
But I'm fortunate now, Michelle, because you said live on a cop salary, now retirement. But because of my speaking engagements and all of that, and you mentioned Forbes #1 keynote speaker in 2016, it's allowed me to have this new career. I'm so fortunate in this speaking career.
Well, you
And-
must have read my mind, because my next question was, what's next for you, Frank? What are you doing now? Talk to us about your speaking.
Well, the speaking career was just going great. I was on an airplane every other week somewhere as a keynote speaker, but obviously the Corona thing shut everybody down. But I'm also busy every day, not only with interviews promoting the movie Wishman. By the way, we didn't say that. Wishman.
A wish
It is
man.
on Netflix, and also you can purchase autographed copy. Go to my website, wishman1.com, and then also my book, Wishman, which is also available. It's on Amazon, but autographed copy on my website, wishman1, the number 1.com.
I have my autographed copy right over there.
Okay. But it also gives me the opportunity, Michelle, to I set on 7, now pretty soon 8 nonprofit boards around the United States, helping to develop these boards, helping to get these boards more recognition, using a little of my name recognition to help them go on. And then my new project is we are working on a possible new TV show, which I'm very excited about. And it's just, I can't really show this. It's called Wishman Angel Patrol. I don't know if that even shows up.
It does. I can see it. And you know what? We can also include it at the end of the show.
Yeah, and this is just the concept right now. We've been contacted by our production team. And I don't know if anybody remembers the Extreme Home Makeover show, where the team would go out and build these homes for certain people. And then also back to the days of Charlie's Angels.
Yes.
And the concept of this show is like Extreme Home Makeover. I will have a team of 6 angels that goes out throughout the United States to look at areas that are devastated by floods, fires, tornadoes, hurricanes, veterans that need help, homeless that need help, anybody that may need some help in the community. And they will come back and report to me. And we will go to those areas. We'll get a team of big sponsors together, but also celebrities, whatever we can do to help that community, to help those individuals. And we've just finished the deck on this. We're getting ready to send it to possible sponsors. And once we get some sponsors lined up, it goes to the TV executives. ABC, CBS, NBC are looking at this. So we're very excited. Hopefully this happens.
Wow. Well, you know what? Let's make a wish.
Yeah, exactly.
Your wish comes true. So Frank, one last question. There's a lot of debacle and a lot of, fights and arguments, and it's like all these issues with the police department, police reform, and Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter. What advice do you have for all of us?
Oh, I don't know if I'm qualified to give any advice. There's so many opinions, but let me say, as my career as a police officer, and especially in our homicide section, which I spent the majority of my career, we were not only investigate homicides around the state, because smaller agencies didn't have their own homicide unit. We would also involve anything with police shootings, police possible brutality charges. We were the internal affairs for those small agencies. And to start with, the gentleman in Minneapolis, that is not a police procedure that is taught, needling on a neck. I mean, that's totally wrong. And then the one also, I just went blank, where the other shooting was.
At Wendy's in Georgia.
At Wendy's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And our team, 2-man team, it would take us up to a month to get all the facts of what happened. And look at the Wendy's shooting, all of a sudden the next day they had all the facts. Mm-hmm. That's baloney. It can't happen. It can't happen. But everybody rushed into judgment. Let the police do their job. Let them find out the facts. If somebody's wrong, guess what? And I put a lot of police in jail. Mm-hmm. I also exonerated a lot of police because political leaders, I don't like this guy. It's a bad image for us. But the police officer was 100% correct in his actions.
Right.
So we just have to judge everyone. But if you don't want to be arrested by a cop, number one, don't do something wrong. If you don't want to get shot or beat up or whatever the case may be, don't resist arrest. Mm-hmm. I mean, you get a traffic ticket, are you going to start fighting right away? Or are you going to say, I'll go to court? Mm-hmm. Big deal. Yeah, so
That's a good perspective. And I wanted to ask you that question because you've been in law enforcement for over 42 years. Who better to answer that question?
Yeah, and the biggest thing now is with the politicians. I don't know why. Defund police. in Seattle, defund the police. We don't want the police, and all of a sudden the Seattle mayor's house is starting to be surrounded and so on. Oh, I need police out here right away.
Right.
Yeah.
You cannot defund police. Do you believe that police reform is needed?
Police, I'm sorry, what?
Police reform?
I don't know about reform so much as training.
Training.
Randy Sutton, and you know Randy Sutton is a very
do.
good friend of mine. Randy Sutton developed the Wounded Blue, a retired Las Vegas Metro lieutenant, most decorated officer in Las Vegas Metro history. But we talk about a lot of these police shootings where officers go in to serve a warrant or domestic disturbance and are shot. And to me, it's poor police training. They're not getting the training how to handle those situations. Why would you go to a domestic disturbance by yourself?
Right.
Because your supervisor won't allow another person to go. Why would you do a traffic approach in different areas where you know you're stopping a known felon? Why do you do that by yourself? But also the fight thing, like we saw at the Wendy's. Officers, in my opinion, a lot of them are not receiving the hands-on combat training, fighting, that we were taught back in my days. We had boxing classes. We had the self-defense classes. We knew the takedowns. And even back in my day, you couldn't raise a fist to anybody, any type of action, unless they actually hit you. If they went up like this, I'm going to hit you, you couldn't do anything. They had to actually strike you before you could do anything.
So things have changed dramatically from when you were in the field.
Yes, but we were taught the defense tactics.
Right.
We didn't have the pepper spray. We had mace. We didn't have the stun guns. We had our arms, our ability, our self-defense.
Right.
So we had some officers shot and killed. I went to too many police funerals in my own state, and officers that I investigated their deaths.
Right. Wow. Well, you have seen a lot. You have lived a huge life, and you continue to do so, and you continue to give back to the community, and you continue to help others, and you continue to help promote the foundation and sit on many other boards. And I hope that you get your wish.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Wouldn't that be so much fun? Yeah. I want to be an angel. Don't I look like an angel? So, and also thank you for giving me a great testimony on my book, Exit Rich, which you see right behind me.
Yes, of course.
So is there any last famous words that you would like to leave with our listeners, Frank?
Well, look at the movie Wishman on Netflix.
Look at the movie Wishman. It is a wonderful movie. In fact, every time I watch it, I get teary-eyed. And I watched it last time with my husband, and I noticed out of the corner of my eye, he was getting teary-eyed, although, he didn't want to show me. He didn't want me to see that.
That's a big, tough guy there, right?
That is a big, tough guy, yeah. But there's a lot of moving, really moving parts in the movie that move you to tears, and it's a wonderful movie. So I encourage everybody to watch Wishman. I'm sorry?
And you said parting words, and that's the message of the movie is everyone can be a hero. If somebody needs help, do what you can to help them. And remember, it doesn't take money to help out. You can just maybe help out with your time.
And I love that saying, everyone can be a hero. Anyone can be a hero. Absolutely. So this is another episode of Find Your Exit. Thank you, Frank Shankwitz, for being such an amazing guest. And everyone, tune in to Find Your Exit. Make sure that you follow Frank Shankwitz. Make sure you go to wishman.com.
Yep.
Wishman.com.
Wishman1.
Wishman1.com. Make sure you go to wishman1.com and follow us on findyourexitpodcast.com, and you will see more information about Frank Shankwitz and how to contact him. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here on Find Your Exit.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks for listening to the Find Your Exit podcast. Don't forget to check out Michelle Seiler Tucker's Build to Sell Blueprint books and Exit Rich, along with more blogs, videos, and resources at findyourexit.org. Be sure to connect with Michelle on Facebook or LinkedIn and stay tuned for her next episode by subscribing in your favorite podcast player.